Hey everyone, this is Ashish, and I'm joined here by my friend and co-host Allison, and
Hi.
welcome to another uninspiring episode of Uninspiring.
Super uninspiring.
We're going to start things off today with a small clip of a TED Talk by Stella Young. She was a disability activist from Australia, I think. Mm-hmm. And so we'll let you listen to that, and we'll be back with you shortly.
I was on my second teaching round in a Melbourne high school, and I was about 20 minutes into a Year 11 legal studies class when this boy put up his hand and said, "Hey miss, when are you going to start doing your speech?" And I said, "What speech?" I'd been talking to them about defamation law for a good 20 minutes. And he said, like your motivational speaking. When people in wheelchairs come to school, they usually say, like, inspirational stuff. It's usually in the big hall. And that's when it dawned on me. This kid had only ever experienced disabled people as objects of inspiration. We are not, to this kid, and it's not his fault. I mean, that's true for many of us. For lots of us, disabled people are not our teachers or our doctors or our manicurists. We're not real people. We are there to inspire. And in fact, I'm sitting on this stage looking like I do in this wheelchair, and you are probably kind of expecting me to inspire you, right?
And so, welcome back, everyone. And so, like I said, you've just listened to a little clip from a TED Talk by Stella Young. She was a disabilities advocate from Australia, and we'll post the link. We'll post the link to the full talk, and she talks about inspiration porn, which is kind of what we're going to talk about today. So, Allison, you want to start things off?
Sure. Well, I'm sure everyone just heard it, but so her definition of inspiration porn is when you're objectifying one group of people for the benefit of another group of people. And my experience has always been that people don't understand why this is a problem, right? Like they will come up to you and say that you're such an inspiration, and in their mind, 100% that's a compliment. And as I've gotten older, I've given some pushback when people say that, because it is, when you unpack it, it's very offensive. But people will say it and not mean to be offensive, and seem to genuinely not even begin to understand why that's not an okay thing. Mm. And so one thing I had thought about when I was listening to it is maybe going through and really talking about why, like, some of the ramifications of doing this to people, and what I experienced with it, especially when I was younger. When people say this to you a lot, when you sort of unpack what they're really saying, what they're saying is that the fact that you have left the house today, the fact that you haven't killed yourself yet, the fact that you're out in the world doing anything is inspirational. And when the bar is set so low for inspiration and achievement, then nothing else that you're doing is an achievement. That was how I took it, is that we've already labeled you a hero. We've already labeled you an inspiration. So anything else that you're going to be doing is meaningless. It's like it's a hollow thing to say to someone, and it strips away meaning from things that they might really do in the future, right? Because, well, why am I going to go out and do something when I'm already being hailed as a hero and inspirational and incredible for doing absolutely nothing? Like, I feel like what it does is it strips meaning out of your life when you say it,
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. And I want to add to that. I want to say that I'm talking personally. I've had so many experiences with this kind of inspirational talk and being touted as an inspirational person from a young age, that I felt like it stripped me of my humanity. People put you up on this pedestal, and it's I don't want to say they don't deify you. You're not a god, but it's to me it's pretty close up there because they hold you in this light, and then you're not allowed the normal life that you might be striving for, and that to me is damaging, and if it happens to you at a young age, that becomes part of your identity, that becomes part of your self-concept, and I think it's really hard to free yourself of that once it takes hold, also, I'm not. I listened to this TED Talk a few times actually, and inspiration porn, like it's. I wonder if it's at all inspiring, the little memes and things that she's referring to, these cute little quotes with the picture of the the guy with the two prosthetic legs running alongside the girl with the no arms. I don't know if you've seen that one. And it's the one, just the example she used. The only disability is a bad attitude or something like that.
Yeah.
And I wonder if people look at stuff like that and actually are inspired and motivated to do things. I feel like rather it's not an inspiration, but it's more of like a reminder to people that, oh, my life isn't that shitty. It could be shittier, And that's not inspirational. That's something else.
Yeah, I think people feel better if they think someone is beneath them. I think it gives people a sense of power and superiority, right? If I can if I can build myself up on the backs of other people, whether it's true or not, then I can feel better about myself. So, so see, my life isn't that bad. I don't need to feel bad about my life or myself because this person is living this terrible, awful, horrible life. Yeah. And so really, I'm doing really good. I'm much better. I'm not this ruined, right? Exactly. That's what I feel like it's saying. At least I'm not ruined in this way. They have to have someone beneath them.
So it's not so I don't really see it as an inspirational thing. It's more of like it's a pick-me-up for people. It's like they might be having a shitty time in their life, and they see something like that on social media, and they're like, my life's not that bad. Thank God I don't have to deal with this. I don't know if I could. In fact, that was one of the messages I most remember growing up, or as a younger person, was, I don't know how you do it, Ashish. If I had to do this, I don't think I could. And I mean, what the hell does that mean? I
know that's one of those where, if I could roll my eyes harder, I would probably give myself a migraine when people say that kind of shit, because it's so ridiculous. It's like you would do it the way that everyone does it. Like if you got in the car accident and you were paralyzed. It would be difficult and it would take adjustment, and then you would get back to, you have to do your laundry and you have to do your dishes and you have to do all the little inane things that have to happen during the day. And so it's like you've created this idea of inspiration and this sort of idea of struggle when really, I don't know, it feels to me like most of the time I'm just doing sort of the normal innate things that you have to do, to have your life flow normally. And so I don't know, it always feels ridiculous to me that people say, oh, I don't know what I would do. And it's like, no, you would do it the way that millions of Americans get injured and suffer some kind of trauma that then puts them into some form of disability. And they go on. I mean, people do this all the time. Sure. It's not this incredible thing that you should be able to wrap your head around this, right? Like, this should not be so inconceivable to you.
Well, I think what happens though is that people, I think they don't. Of course, they don't do it out of malice. I think that they're projecting their own fears onto us. So when they say things like, "Oh, I don't think I could do this," I don't know how you do it, this, that, and the other. they're kind of telling us that they're afraid of what lies ahead. You know, they're not disabled now, but I think, like you said, everybody's going to feel that at some point. The longer you live, the more susceptible you are to, enduring some sort of disability. You know, either cognitively or physically, or both.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, at some point, like you said, if you live long enough, at some point, your body is not going to be the body that you inhabited when you're younger. Mm-hmm. Your body is going to decay around you, and it's not going to function it's not going to do the things that you want it to do in the way that you want to do them.
Exactly.
If you reach a certain age, at some point, that is going to occur for every human being. Your knees are going to give out, your hips are going to give out, your back is going to give out, and you are going to have to make those same adjustments that I feel like I'm just ahead of the curve. At least with my personal disability, the way that it affects is a lot more like I feel kind of like my joints and my bones and my body is more like like a 70-year-old maybe. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I don't know, like that's how I think about my disabilities, is just I'm going through like
you're getting a taste of old age.
Right,
almost.
Yeah, like that's what it is. And so when I hear people say stuff like that, which they have to me too, it's like, no, you're going to have to fucking figure out how you're going to deal with it, because you're going to be in this spot at some point. If you're lucky enough and live long enough,
right,
you're going to be where I am right now. And you're going to have to work it out the same way millions of other people work it out.
And it's even worse when, I don't know if this has happened to you, but if you come across an older person, like someone in their 60s or 70s, and if you just let it out that, oh, my back hurts or whatever, because this has happened to me. I've talked to a fellow that I've said, oh, my neck is killing me or whatever, and he's like, well, just wait till you're my age. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? You know what? My neck can't hurt now? I mean, why is it? Why do I have to wait until I'm 70? What's going to happen then?
Yeah, it's not a competition.
Right.
Your neck, everybody's neck can hurt.
Exactly. Like, I don't feel like I need to get into a pissing contest with people about my pain,
Right. Oh, it's ridiculous. The stuff that people get into pissing contests over never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we got off on a tangent there, but it was cool. Stella Young, in her TED Talk, she also says that I think I paraphrased here. We've all been lied to about disability, that it's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I challenge that notion, because I know it's not a bad thing. I have bad days, as I'm sure you do, and other people with disabilities do. Fine, but are we positive it's not a bad thing? Because everything else around me, that when I see things and when I hear people say, it still tells me that, yeah, it is a bad thing. It's not necessarily a desirable thing. People don't go around saying, I want my kid to be born with a disability. We don't do. In fact, it's the opposite. Now science is allowing us to genetically tailor our DNA so where we can eliminate disability from our society. If disability is not a bad thing, why are we doing this? Why is that an issue?
And I guess, I feel like this is maybe a bit of a straw man argument, but I feel like I like being gay. I've heard that same argument when people come out to their parents, and their parents become overwhelmed with emotion, and the kid's response is, "Why are you crying?" And it's like, well, I'm not against homosexuality, but no one ever wants their kid to be gay, right? I feel like that's this rhetoric that a lot of parents have with their kids, and that's a terrible kind of mixed message, right? That they don't have any problem with being gay, but also no one would ever want that for their child, and what a terrible tragedy this is.
That brings up an interesting point. I'm glad that you framed it in the way that you did, because it made me think, are parents actually talking about gayness? Are they talking about no parent wants their child to be gay? Are they saying that, or are they saying no parent wants their child to have to endure what a person that is gay has to endure in our current culture? Because that is sad, the hatred and just the intolerance and things like that. That what comes along with that, and what comes along with being disabled. Maybe that is what's undesirable.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
But it's a package deal, isn't it? I mean,
yes. I think that's the case, right?
Yeah.
They don't want their kid to have to suffer, which I think on the surface is a fair thing, right? Like, you don't want your kid to have to suffer. But I feel like, if you're born a woman, you're going to have to, you're going to have a whole set of shit that you're going to have to deal with that you wouldn't have to deal with if you're a man. If you're born, a certain ethnicity, if you're born a certain socioeconomic status.
Right.
I feel like there's so many things that are different from, like, the ideal, traditionally attractive, well-built, white, rich male. Pretty much, if you're not that, then, you're having some kind of struggle, right? And I think it does, like, when you mentioned, eliminating all these disabilities, it's a complex issue, right? Because on one hand, it's true, right? It's maybe not a good thing to have people, struggle and suffer. But on the other hand, I don't know what kind of person I would be if I wasn't disabled. I can never divorce my disability from the person that I am now. And I really like the person that I am now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it feels like we would lose some, I don't know, like she says, it's not all bad. No. It's not automatically this terrible,
right.
Sentence to be disabled. And maybe we shouldn't be so afraid of suffering. Maybe we shouldn't be so afraid of having a hard life.
But hardship it comes with the territory. That is to be alive is to mm-hmm. endure hardship. In some form or another, socioeconomic hardship, employment just stuff, mm-hmm. Family hardships.
Yeah, everybody has
sure
hardships, right? So, I don't know. I think it's her comment on that, like you said, it is something that's hard to kind of accept completely, right? Because on one hand, no, I wouldn't want to be able to strip away my disability. Like, if someone gave me a magic wand and said we can make it that you were never disabled, when I was 16, hands down, I would have taken that shit.
You're ready, yeah.
Like no second thoughts.
So what has changed for you then? Why then and not now?
Well, I think when I was 16, I was being faced with the knowledge, like, it really sunk in how profound this stereotype is, and how profound the amount of people who viewed me as that stereotype, how pervasive that was. And it made me feel like the things that I did and the person that I really was didn't matter, because everybody had this stereotype already. And that, I could skip class, I could do drugs. I drove off the lot of my high school at lunch, like, almost every day, and waved goodbye to the security guard on the way out, and he would just wave back, because, of course, the little handicapped girl is not going to lie. She's not going to do anything, insincere, because she's handicapped. So she's so inspirational, and she's a hero, and she wouldn't do this.
See what I mean? Exactly. They've put you on a pedestal, not in terms of inspirationally, but in that example you gave, they have held you to a certain standard. She can't be a bitch. She's an angel.
Yep. And when I was 16, what that said to me was, nothing you do matters. That we already know what we think about you. We have you on this pedestal already. You were there before you had a chance to do anything, right? We saw you. We saw how you walked, and you went up there, right? Before you said anything, before we got to know you, that's where you were. And so anything that you actually say or actually do or actually think is irrelevant, because you're already on the pedestal. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so when I was 16, that was what it felt like. It felt like nothing I would ever do would ever matter, because everyone already had this stereotype, and they were content with that, and they were happy with that, and they were going to live in that regardless, mm-hmm. right?
Did you? This is kind of off topic, but did you ever milk that? Of course you. God. I'm sure you caught on to the, hey, these people think this about me.
It was so bad. I still struggle with not doing that, because I know so well, the things that I'm able to get away with and the buttons that I'm able to push with people, I mean, it was bad for a long time. Like, I was really
You're a manipulative person.
Yeah, but it was terrible because I wasn't actually, you know, when you're just, I don't know, when you're using like cheap tactics to do everything, then you don't actually learn. You don't grow. You don't learn. You don't accomplish anything, right? You're you're going the easiest route because you know you can get away with all of it. And it was bad. Like, I really got heavy into drugs for a while and drinking for a while. And it was because, you know, no one would care. People would give me, you know, doctors were throwing pain prescriptions at me, right? And it was like, oh, you wouldn't, you know, abuse them or anything. That would be crazy. You wouldn't sell them or anything. That would be crazy. We'll just, you know, if you say you're in pain, then clearly you must be in pain. We'll just continue to do this. Wow. I mean, this was also, I think, that same period where they were over-prescribing it to everyone, right? But I think it was like, you know. But anyway,
it was easier for you maybe to get your hands on stuff like that.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Right, and I feel like that's really scary because I know that that's true for, I'm sure, many disabled people, is that you can take advantage of things in this way to a really negative, you know, like in a way that's not going to help you. It's going to be really detrimental to you.
And by the way, I'm guilty of doing the same thing. Maybe not to the extent that you did, but I mean, I was a pretty tame teenager.
Oh, man.
I kind of wish I was a little bit more wild, but I you know, whatever. That's the time's gone.
Yeah, I was pretty bad. I think I shouldn't have graduated high school. I don't know.
No, that's right, because again, Stella in her talk says we're not. She makes a point to say we're not real people. You know, you know, we don't see doctors, we don't see teachers and nurses and et cetera, as people. You know, people with disabilities in those roles, in those professions, and so. We are not, she says, we're not real people, and it feels as though sometimes that we as people with disabilities are solely there to just be an inspiration to others who are more capable or whatever.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's dehumanizing, as any stereotype is. It's
exactly, yeah, and that's another way to nicely put it, because I think I said earlier that it strips us of our humanity when we are put on this high, you know, pedestal of being these inspiring beings for doing seemingly regular tasks.
Right, exactly. And, you know, I don't know, that's what it feels like when the bar is set so low, and then once you've achieved that, then where do you go from there? And essentially it doesn't matter to anyone, right? Because if I'm a hero for doing nothing, then why would I go and do anything? Like, what's my motivation to go and do anything if I'm already a hero just because I haven't killed myself because I left the house? You know, I don't know. I think it's really harmful. Like, it's much more harmful than I think people give it credit for. This stereotype and this inspiration porn. Because I think what you're telling the child that's being, you know, objectified, or the adult that's being objectified, is that you don't actually matter, right? The stuff that you do doesn't matter because you're a hero for doing nothing. So, yeah,
I don't know. I didn't get that so much. Did you get that from your parents? Did they kind of your family? Because I certainly didn't. I didn't growing up. It was more like, and this goes back to our previous conversation. It was more like, hey, you need to like do more. Like you're not doing enough because you have to pass as a human being if you're going to get anywhere. And I'm saying this is what it sounded like coming from my parents. Like, yeah, you need to do more. You're not doing enough. You know, if you made a B, you need to be fucking making an A. You know?
Oh yeah, no,
because that's not going to work. You know?
Yeah, no, maybe it was just your parents more that way. But I remember as a kid, I felt, when I was much younger, the way that I took inspiration porn and people always telling me I was inspiring was I tried so hard to live up to that. I thought that I had to maintain that standard, and I like killed myself as a kid thinking I couldn't just be smart. I had to be the smartest person in the room because I was everyone's fucking hero. So I had to, like, it was this incredible pressure to be perfect.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I got messages from my family, but there were just these vague, sweeping statements like, "You're gonna be somebody. You're gonna show people." You know. Mm-hmm. You know, that's all they would say. They didn't tell me what I was gonna show them, but they were like, "You're gonna just show them." You know, that you know, and I can just infer that they meant, yeah, you're gonna show them. I'm gonna show them that my disability doesn't mean anything or whatever. You know, I'm gonna be this. This gleaming example of a human being, you know, rising above my, you know, challenges and all this shit, you know. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that was like a big mind fuck for me, because that was the thing that I grew up with, and in my head for a really long time. I mean, I still struggle with it. I'm still trying to shed that, but it's like, yeah, I've got to do this because they said I was going to do that. And I don't want to disappoint them, you know. You know, they love me, they care for me, and I can't see them sad. So I've got to do this, and I would hurt myself. I would disappoint myself. I would try things that I would attempt things that were probably way beyond my reach, and then when I came crashing down, it hurt me, you know, and fucked up my ego, you know, or my self-esteem, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That was like, so 16 was this like pivotal year for me. So before, it was like, I guess about my sophomore year of high school. So before that, I think I maybe had 1 B in my entire life. I had straight A's with everything. I was in every gifted program. I was in a lot of after school programs, because I thought the message that I was getting was that you're everyone's hero, you're everyone's inspiration. And I felt so pressured to live up to that. I thought that was what I needed to do. And I thought that was what people were expecting of me, right? I think looking back on it, I maybe didn't realize how completely connected it was to my disability. I thought that it was, you know, your school and your after school work was what was inspiring people. It was only the disability. And as long as I continued to be disabled, then I was inspiring regardless of what I did. Like, you know, I remember thinking I could be throwing like a bag of puppies over a bridge. And as long as I was like, you know, limping or struggling to do it because I looked disabled, someone would come by and ask to help me to do it. And then say, "Oh, sweetheart, you're so inspirational," as the puppies like drowned. That's what I thought in my head. It was like, it really doesn't matter that I've already, being disabled is what's making me inspirational. So the things that I'm actually doing are meaningless. And that was like a huge spiral that it took a while to get pulled down out of. Wow. And that was rough.
Yeah, I can't say that I have shared that same experience. I mean, not to that extent. For me, it's just really sporadic. I get people every now and then. I mean, it seems like it happens a lot, but I don't think it does. But I'll go to the gym, and I like to work out and exercise and all that stuff, and all the time, like in the beginning, when I first started going to the gym, almost every other day, somebody would come up to me and say, "Oh, excuse me, I just wanted to tell you that you really inspire me, man. Rock on, you know, fight the good fight." And at first, I was like, okay. Like, I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Like, okay, yeah, great. You know, like, I thought they were just giving, like, workout motivation or something. No, I didn't know. And as I got older, I was like, no, they think of me different, you know? And I was like, ugh. I don't know how to combat that. And even today, I don't quite know how to respond to someone. It's not in my nature to just kind of lash out to people and tell them to go fuck themselves. Even though that's what I might be thinking, I just sort of let it happen, let it play out. Because like we've talked about before, I don't think these comments come out of a place of malice. They don't mean to do us harm, but it is harmful every time, you know.
Yep.
It cuts like a knife, you know, and I wish there was a way to. I don't know. I wish there was a way to let people know how it feels, but we really can't. You know, it's like you can't let someone know how it is to have to use a chair every day just by them sitting in it for one day or a couple of hours or whatever, you know? They're never going to get that. experience. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, the way I think about it is, I get frustrated too with myself, because people will say stuff like that, and like you, I'll want to be like, wait a minute, let's unpack what you're actually saying to me, because you think you're giving me a compliment and you're not, and maybe this is a chance for you to understand what's going on here. But realistically, you can't fucking do that. You know, people say it's like a drive-by microaggression, right? People will say it and then immediately leave, or it would be really inconvenient for you to stop what you were doing to try to explain it.
Right.
Or, you know, I don't know, it's just, it's so difficult to do it on a person-by-person basis.
Oh, you know, I don't know if this is what you mean, but it really is a teachable moment. Mm-hmm. But I am not that, again, that's not my personality. I am not the world's teacher, man. Like, I don't feel like I need to stop what I'm doing to try to explain to you in detail how that is offensive, you know? Mm-hmm. But if that is not the answer, or if that's not the start, I don't know what is. And that was kind of disappointing when I heard Stella Young's talk. I kind of wished that she had left the lecture with some pointers on how we can minimize this sort of thing, because it's starting to get worse. Like, I remember when I first saw, you know, inspiration porn, or what it was, I had gone through it a lot in my life, and I'm thankful to her, because now I have a phrase to put that, you know, put to what has been happening to me.
Such a good phrase,
you know,
too.
And so I'm very thankful for her for doing that. But again, she didn't leave us much with how do we transform that? How do we come away from that? You know, and so maybe that needs to be the second part of our conversation is, what do we do? You know, I've recognized that I am not a teacher, you know, and some people are. Some people will do it, you know. They'll stop and say, that's not nice, you know, that's offensive, but I'm not one of those people, so.
Right. No, I'm bad. Like, I'm very autopilot. I've noticed when people say stuff is I'll just say, thanks, no thanks, or I'm fine, or I'm good, without even thinking about it. And I'll be like, holy fuck, I just, like, told that guy thanks for being an asshole to me. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Allison?
Yes.
Like, and then I have this, like, internal fight with myself where I'm mad that I let it go, but then I'm mad that I'm letting myself be mad about it for so long. And then it's like this no-win situation, right? But, you know, I don't know. It's one of those where I think ideally you would want to do it every time, but it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
To do, you know, it's one of those, like, in a fairy tale world, yes, everyone would be able to stop what they're doing and handle and have this, you know, wonderful moment of, you know, knowledge with someone else and let them know, and they would see your viewpoint and understand what they're doing, and it'll be great. And in reality, that never happen. You know, it's never that convenient to do. People will sometimes get really offended if you don't take something that they think is a compliment as a compliment, right? Like, they'll go into defensive mode. Like, the one or two times that I've actually tried to tell people that, you know, why would you say something like that, they get immediately defensive and closed off and will usually just leave, right? Like, I don't know. And I think, like, ultimately, for me, the answer is always going to be to just tell people our side of it. Because I think people get all these mixed messages from, like, churches and media, and, like, social media has really blown it up, right? Like, fucking, I see it all the time now.
And it comes from my friends, which really, really hurts me. Like, and these are people that I feel like, man, these are smart people. They got a good head on their shoulders. Why are you posting this garbage?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's like this fucking, like, plague that is just infesting through, you know, Facebook and Reddit and Imgur and all these places. You know, people use it all the time, and it becomes even more of a thing that people use without thinking, right? And so I don't know. I really do think the best thing we can do, and something that I have not seen is people saying the other side of this. That this is genuinely harmful. Like me as a child being called a hero by someone that I have never spoken with before sends a very confusing message to a child, right? I mean, it's genuinely hurtful, and absolutely having that happen to you a lot as a child breeds some really deep confusion and conflict in you as an adult that you will have to work through. You're creating the struggle that wasn't there initially, right? You know,
yeah, exactly. And it goes back to what I say, when you expose children to that, that becomes a part of their self-concept of who they are, of who they think they are, and that just becomes enmeshed in that, you know. And it's like I said, when that happens at a young age, you know, it is really hard to break free of that. I mean, it just becomes, it's like breathing, you know. That's just who you think you are, you know, and how you think you need to be in this world, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes equate it to, in people's minds, when you're disabled, you're either a mentally retarded person or Stephen Hawking. And there seems to be no middle ground. You either have to be this, you know, incredibly... It's such a weird thing, right? Is people either... And I've noticed it, too, a lot. It's, like, evolved as I've gone to college, too, is because, of course, we're in... Or at least I'm in the very, like, liberal part of college, right? Like, I'm in the humanities department, and so everyone's very liberal. And what's happening is that people are aware that this exists, but their response is to, like, rubber band way the other direction. And so I'll turn in stuff and they'll be like, this is the best thing I've ever read. You are the best student I've ever had. You are going to do some amazing things. You are going to go on to really, you know, do some incredible work for this department, and you know, and it's I can tell that part of it is that they're aware of the kind of assumption of inability that exists, and so they're crazy overcompensating for it and assuming that I am a genius with everything I do. And then all that does is make me, like, so anxious and intimidated by doing work, because I think, like, holy shit, this person thinks I'm a fucking genius for no reason, but now I'm going to feel really shitty if I turn in a bunch of papers and all of a sudden I'm not, you know, I'm just a normal fucking person. Right? Now I'm going to have this teacher is going to be disappointed, right? And then is maybe going to grade, like, I've had some teachers probably grade me down a little bit because their expectation is so high for no reason, right? Like a teacher that I've literally never met before, have never spoken to, suddenly thinks you're going to do great. I can tell you're going to be one of those top students. It's like, how the fuck do you know that? I've never turned in work to you. We've had no conversation. What are you basing that on? And I don't know. For me, that puts so much pressure on me. Like, I think I've come back to that idea that I had as a child, is it's like people put you on that pedestal. Like, it's become kind of the same thing when I was young, as I feel like I'm up on this pedestal in college, that I have to be the smartest person in the room. And all it is pressure, and all it does is make me really anxious and really intimidated, and all that anxiety just makes it harder to do good work. And when I don't do good work, then I just get really depressed and down about it and beat myself up about it. And so it's like this really annoying cycle, and it's like, why can't I just be average? Like, I don't have to be a genius. I'm okay with not being a genius.
Exactly.
You know? Exactly.
Or
or a hero.
I very much want to live in that gray area, that middle, that happy medium, you know. But yeah, like you said, society tends to put certain people on one end of the spectrum or the other, the extremes. You just kind of have to navigate your way through, you know. And God, I would just love to be a regular.
Yeah, I mean, I think it still is ultimately...
and again, Stella Young, she says at the end of her speech, she's like, I would love to live in a world where disability is normalized.
Right.
And not exceptionalized, which is another term that she used. I love that we are the exception.
Mm-hmm.
People with disabilities are the exception, and I'm not fond of that. I don't care to be an exception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it should be, it needs to be more normalized than it is. It doesn't mean anything. My disability doesn't mean I'm a genius. It doesn't mean I'm an angel. It doesn't mean that I'm an asshole. It doesn't mean fucking anything, right? Like, my disability on its own should have no connotation at all. Me as a person, the things that I'm saying, the things that I'm doing,
exactly,
should be what's giving you information about who I am and what I'm going to be like.
Another thing you just said, you can be a bitch, you can be an asshole. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how and I've been accused of this. Like, when I've come across as being an asshole, are you? People say, are you bitter about being disabled? I mean, why does that have to be that? Why? What if I came out of the womb like a real son of a bitch?
Yes. Oh, I've been called bitter a lot.
Yeah. Like, why can't I just be bitter? Why does that have to be the reason why I'm bitter?
Yes. My disability is not the direct reason that I do everything in my life. It's not the direct reason that I make all the decisions.
But it seems to be the default, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and
yes.
that is also frustrating to me. Along with the inspirational shit, is that any kind of, if I'm happy, it's because I've accepted my life, and I'm just making lemonade out of lemons or whatever,
right. Yeah.
And if I'm angry, it's because I don't like this body or something,
Right.
Which is true. Some days I do curse my body, but I sometimes wonder that, like, am I cursing my body because I'm comparing it to a normal body, which I know nothing about because I was born disabled. So, like, I have no frame of reference, right? So, I challenge myself on my feelings sometimes. Like, I'm being I'm being frustrated about the way my body's working today. But am I frustrated because I'm comparing it to what I think should be normal, what I'd like it to be? Because I have no idea what it could be, Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm the same way. Like, I've been disabled since birth, so to me this is normal.
Right.
I have any other point of reference for what normal? Not really, right? In the same way that no one is really going to be able to, like, inhabit my body and know what it's like to be me. I'm never, I can have this vague idea, but I'm never going to be able to inhabit.
Exactly. Right.
So yeah. I don't know, but I'm with you that it always feels like if I'm mad, then it has to be something related to my disability, and it's like
not always, but sometimes it is. I'll admit that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but it's not all the time. Like, no. I have other shit happens to me, and I think other thoughts, and I do other things, and I exist. It's not a vacuum, right? Like, what was there was a funny thing, and I forget what it was on, but someone was saying, like, you can't unmake soup, right? Like, once you start making soup and you put all the ingredients in and you let them soak and you blend in, like, the salt and the seasoning and stuff, you can't suddenly pull out all the salt that you put in, right? You can't take that potato that you've cut up and have cooked and soak and make it be the potato that was raw again, right? And I feel like when I think about who I am, my gender, my upbringing, my sexuality, my disability, my socioeconomic status growing up, like, all of these things have blended together and play a role in, like, the way that I act and the way that I talk and the way that I feel day to day. You can't divorce one aspect of my life from another. They're all informing each other. So it's frustrating when people say that, obviously your disability is doing this, because to me it feels like you don't think that I have anything else existing in me, that this is the whole of who I am.
That is me, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, fucking, it's not. Like, it's not, it's not not a part of who I am, but
Right.
I'm a complex human being just like everyone else is, right? I don't know.
Yeah. No, and that goes back to a point. I was going to save it for the end here, but I'll go ahead. 'Cause I think we still have some time. We can still talk. But
Sure.
this is what I said. This is what I was going to end the show with. And what I was going to say is, being an inspiration to somebody is, in and of itself, it's not a bad thing. I think we're all inspired by whoever we're inspired by for whatever reason. But it becomes a problem when that is the only thing that is the only narrative that we go by, and that we identify or tack on to somebody. Then it becomes problematic, and that's when it becomes damaging. And so let's try not to do that. Let's not make this one thing the reason why you look up to someone, or the reason why you admire someone. Don't let that be the whole reason for their existence. And
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you had, so I'm curious, because I've had this happen, have you had a case where someone that you know, or someone that you, like, sort of very vaguely knew, like, was really adamant about you being their hero or their inspiration?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. What was it? So when the gym that I go to work out, there was a guy there who I had seen. He was new compared to other people that were there that I'd been going there for years. But I saw this for months. He would just kind of circle around me, and he would just he'd pass by, he'd wave his hand, he wouldn't really say anything to me. And this went on for months, and finally one day he approached me, and he just said, I was like I said earlier, I just wanted to. He was real timid too. He was like I don't want to say this, but I feel like I'm compelled to do it. So I felt bad. Like I didn't want to be a dick to him,
Right.
I felt kind of bad for him. He was a sweet guy, and he just said, you really inspire me. You're the only person. And the way he said it actually didn't bother me so much, because he was like, you're the first person that I've seen with a disability that would come out and do this sort of thing. And that, to me, I kind of felt good about that, that he noticed that. And because I've been trying to I tell people with with disabilities, like, hey, if we want to be recognized, if we want disability to be normalized, we have to go out. We have to be normal.
Yeah.
We have to normally go out and just be visible, And so I didn't take it, but that was the most recent thing, and I think that happened maybe last month or something like that.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But before then, it happened a number of times. I don't have a car, but there's enough around here where I do my shopping and stuff like that. So I'll go in my chair, I'll push myself on the sidewalks or whatever. And so there was a couple that lives in my apartment complex, and it was Saturday, and I was leaving to go to the grocery stores to pick up some stuff. And as I was leaving, I met with them, and they were like, "Oh, you must be off again. I see you, man. You get around, and it's so cool, man. You're such an inspiration." And they actually use that word. You're such an inspiration. We see you around town. It's like, how do you get around so quickly? And I don't think they picked up on it. I was trying to be kind of cute about it, but I was like, well, I have to eat, so I have to go to the store. I can't wish happy thoughts, and like Stella says, I can't use my positive vibes and groceries appear,
Right.
So yeah, it's just sort of, and I don't think about it. So it's just something that I have to do. I have to put groceries in my fridge, and so I go and I do that, and I don't really think about, this is how people are seeing. I notice people watch and looking, staring. But I guess I'm at that point in life where it doesn't concern me that much, And so sometimes I don't even notice people looking.
Doing it, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, so what about you? What was one of the most recent experiences you've had with inspiration porn?
I don't know. I haven't had any major ones. I think we both have these kind of drive-by moments, right? I had that happen a lot. Well, not a lot, but relatively often, where people will sort of do these kind of drive-by, I just wanted to let you know it's so inspiring for, for stuff like that. But one of the ones that stood out and still stands out to me, even though it happened, when I was a child, it like sticks with me because it was such a crazy situation. And it was, I think, oh my God, it was so bizarre. So I took piano when I was younger, right, for years, which, you take an instrument, you went to piano class. And there was like a chick that would come in after me, right? So we would just pass each other. And I had literally never spoken to this other girl who was about my age. I think we were like, 11 or 10 or 11, right? And I'd never spoken to this person. I didn't know what her name was. I could pick her out of a lineup, but, we'd never spoken. And so it was, I don't know, we were at some kind of, like every now and then, maybe twice a year, the piano teacher would organize these like recital events where we would all get together. And we were having snacks at the teacher's house after the recital event. And my mother came up to me and said that, did you know, and I don't remember what her fucking name was, but she wrote a whole paper on you in class. They had to write a paper on their heroes, and she wrote a whole paper about you. And my mom, who is, my mom's solid. My mom does the absolute best that she can with what she has. But for the life of her, she could not understand why I wasn't really touched and excited by this. And as a kid, I remember I didn't unpack it right in any sort of way. I'm like 11. But I remember thinking, I don't understand how she can write a paper. She's never spoken to me before. And I couldn't, that was one of those moments where, you don't really understand what's going on as a kid. But I understood that the experience that she was having with me was very, very different from the experience I was having with myself, right? Mm-hmm. She was seeing a person when she looked at me that I was not seeing when I looked at myself. Mm-hmm. And I had never had that experience with kind of understanding that people look at me in a really different way sometimes than from maybe how I really am. And sometimes those realities are really far apart, right? Like she had enough of a whole idea and narrative in her mind about who I was that she could write a whole fucking paper on it without ever speaking to me as a person.
What you remember of that paper? Was it accurate to who?
Oh no, I never read it. Like I didn't.
Oh, okay. So this is not something she read out in class.
Oh no, she didn't read it out in class. Her mother told my mother because I'm sure her mother also was probably influential in the decision to write that. It's so interesting you say that. This actually happened to me in junior high. Like, did it? It was actually in my class where, again, I didn't know this girl, but she was always this really quiet, reserved girl. I wouldn't say she was like the leper, She was just, she kept to herself. But she ended up writing a paper about me in one of our like English classes or something, and she didn't say my name. She didn't use my name, but the descriptors. Mm-hmm. I knew it was me because I was the only person with a physical disability in the class. Right. And I just remember feeling really awkward, and I knew that I should. I felt awkward, but I felt that I should feel thankful. But I wasn't feeling thankful, Mm-hmm. I felt really uncomfortable, because this person, like you said, didn't know me, and they said all these wonderful things about who maybe I could see myself as an older person, maybe I would become that, but I certainly was not that person at that time, Mm-hmm. So it was awkward. It was weird, It's weird.
Yeah.
That was what I remembered feeling as a kid, is I remembered thinking that, of course, my mother was really taken back because she thought that I would be really happy with this news, right? Like she thought this was a big honor and I would be really grateful and really excited and feel really endeared about it, right? Yeah. Because that's how my mother was feeling about it. And so I remember being both confused that I knew that I wasn't having the reaction my mother wanted me to have. But I could not for the life of me figure out how I was supposed to feel because I could not figure out how she could write a paper because she had never spoken to me before. So it was, you know, when you don't have any context, you know, when you're really young and you really don't understand the inner workings of things, I just remember that being such an incredibly confusing, like I didn't understand why my mom was acting the way she was. I didn't understand why the girl's mom was acting the way she was. I'd never spoken to this fucking girl. Like, I didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
And it was one of those where I felt really isolated for one of the first times as a kid, right? I really felt like I was on an island with the reaction that I was having and the confusion, because everyone else around me was not having that reaction to it, right? And I think that happens a lot with inspiration porn. You know, it's very damaging and very isolating, and it's a real, genuine problem for the person that it's being, like, piled onto. But for everyone else, it's really hard to understand it, right? Because you're not getting it from this side, and it's really difficult to understand what it's like to get it from this side. And that was, like, my first, I guess, where I just felt like, wow,
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Why do you think it persists? Because by now, since its inception, this, you know, inspiration porn in reference to disability, in particularly, we have both sides. We have those memes and those videos and things like that put that out, that put that message out there. But we also have the counter messaging from the disabled community now that has come out and said, well, this is not right. This, you know, it's damaging. All the things that we've talked about. Why do you think it still persists? What keeps that engine going? Because I don't feel like it's stopping, and I don't feel like people, and I don't think it's ignorance. Like, I think that is a cop-out. You can't say, well, they just don't know. They do. In the information age like this, yeah, you know. You know that it's not good. So what keeps it going? Like, people, are they just clinging to it because that's the only good thing that they have? Like, they have to feel good, and so they do it because of that, or what?
Yeah. I mean, and I'd be interested to hear your opinion on it, too. But my take is, I think that primarily it's two things that are happening. I think it is true that some people who are having, you know, like, we were in a recession, a lot of people are out of work, a lot of people lost a lot of money, a lot of people are having a rougher life than they maybe would have anticipated. And I do think people are desperate to have someone below them, or at least to feel like someone is below them. That there's a class of people that are doing worse than you are. I feel like that's been the case for a long time. I think that's something that existed with, like, racism and with sexism, is the idea that you are somehow still superior, even when you don't have any money and you have a job, and, you know, your girlfriend left or your boyfriend left, and, you know, all this stuff is going wrong. The idea that, oh, well, I'm not that person, I think is really appealing to people, right? Is, oh, my life's not that bad because I'm not that person. That person's life is much worse than mine is. So I'm still doing pretty good. And I think, I mean, that's what it feels like. It feels like people are drowning and they're making boats. Like, inspiration porn is the boat that they're trying to stay afloat on.
That's a great analogy.
I mean, I think that's part of it. Because I've seen people, I don't know, like, it's hard, right? Like, I've seen people do it in person, and I've seen a lot of Facebook posts about it, and then I've seen a lot of, like, posts on, like, Reddit and Imager about it. And I get the feeling it's probably mostly coming from people that are very, very insecure about their own lives and are really desperate to not be what they perceive as the bottom rung of the ladder, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the other part is people just really are fucking karma whores. And for some people, this is like a cheap way to feel that you've done a good deed. Right, like I think some people take it as, you know, I'm going to share this thing, and I'm gonna be, you know, this beacon. I'm going to send this out, and that's going to be my karma, and, you know, because some people have, like, their whole fucking Facebook thing is that's all it is fucking inspiration porn of, like, disabled people. Like, some people really get off.
I've not actually seen that, but I don't really want to. I don't want to encounter that, because I think that would make me flip out or something if I saw someone that had all of their, you know, post like that.
Oh man, it's nuts. Like I'm on Imager all the time.
Yeah.
And every time I see it on Imager, I almost never comment. But every time I see someone really blatantly using inspiration porn, or otherwise blatantly objectifying a disabled person,
Sure.
so that they could get like internet points or feel good about themselves, right? I'll make a comment like, stop fucking objectifying disabled people or something like that, right? And some of these people where I've actually clicked into their profile, it's like 90% that kind of fucking nonsense.
That's the thing.
And it's because people eat it up because they like feeling that they're superior and their life isn't as bad as this other person's life. And I think people like putting that out because they like the attention and the reformation they get back, right? People say, oh man, thanks for sharing that. That really made my day. I needed that. Thanks for sharing that, man. That's really great. That's a great message you're putting out. So I think it's kind of a combo of that. And it's all like this bullshit like circle jerk with able-bodied people is how I kind of see it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Wow. Oh, man, that's a bad imagery. I didn't want to see.
I know, you're welcome. I like to combo like a few good analogies with like the worst possible.
Now you left me
ever.
with this
You're
like
welcome.
I'm like, what the hell? Like I'm gonna have this image of like people just like.
No, I like the hand motion though. That's an important. Like you can't see it on the podcast.
Right.
But it's very critical to have this circle jerk.
Yeah, like this computer screen.
Hand motion in there. Yes, it's critical. That's what I imagine. People posting that shit are just like, yes, so much karma.
Yeah.
Right. That's it.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's been a great discussion.
That's a great ending. We'll leave it.
We're gonna leave you with that with that imagery, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new episode. Thanks for listening in.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.